Hi, Elaine Fletcher. I look after Hoonartek's interests in the UK and EMEA for my sins. You've probably never heard of Hoonartek. We don't do marketing, so it's not your fault. We're slightly over 600 people, I think probably closer to 650 now. We're a systems integrator globally, and we're probably one of the oldest systems integration partners that Aerospike have had. So we've been deploying their solution for some very large programs for about 5.5 years now. So I wouldn't claim that we're the smartest people on the planet, but we never make a mistake twice, and we've learned a lot in 5 years of working with the product. So I will say that I feel pretty confident that we understand that product very well now. So what I'd like to talk to you about today, as well as our general ability to do systems integration, build, operate, support, etc., for clients for many years using Aerospike, what I'd like to do is focus a little bit more on a thing called DigiTwin, which is a product that we're actually launching in June globally. So what is DigiTwin? As I mentioned, we're quite a large company. We've been working with Aerospike for many years, and we've noticed a lot of common threads in terms of the problems that our customers have got and why they're using Aerospike. So the biggest problem we've got is right across mostly telcos and banking. That's our biggest customer base for Aerospike to date. Their customers want immediacy in all of their interactions with their telco or their bank, and they expect intimacy, a segment of one. That's no longer a competitive edge. That is just what everyone's got to do. And of course, they want their omnichannel choice of convenience. We're all the same. We're all customers of telcos and banks, so everyone in this room just expects that as ground zero. Now, the market leaders dominate because they deliver this at a massive scale, 24/7. So how do they do that? Because the problem is the critical business data that all these organizations need to serve their customers. It's locked into heritage apps that were built many years before real time. But there's millions and millions of investment gone into those apps. They're not about to kick them out and rebuild them in real-time apps. They can't afford that, and they haven't got the years required to do that. So what they need to do is liberate that data so that they can then start to serve that data in real time and at massive scale to the customers who expect it. So let's have a look at these market leaders. How did they do it? Did they replace if you're a telco, did they replace the entire OSS BSS stack? No, they didn't. What they did is they added a real-time cache layer in the middle, and they automatically synced all of the data across hundreds of heritage apps with that cache. And that is what they're using to drive those personalized services at scale. And what they've found over the years, customer satisfaction goes up, revenue goes up, and that's why they dominate in their field. So we built one of these 5.5 years ago now. We built it, we operate it, and it's a very large one. So it started out, we had to design it for 350 million customers globally for a company that was at that time the world's second largest telco. They're also a global bank. And they also own media companies for digital TV and the equivalent of Spotify in their region. So quite a diverse sort of group with a very diverse customer base. They've used this successfully now for 5.5 years. We built it, we operate it for all of that time. It wasn't a static system. Now, when we built this 5.5 years ago, it was built to do a job. We designed it to do that job, complicated as it was at the time. What we didn't know when we built it is that this telco had been like any other telco. Their culture was, we buy something, we sweat it for 2 or 3 years, and we might make the odd adjustment to it, but, things don't come to market very quickly. That was the culture they came from. As soon as they started operating the solution that we built jointly with Aerospike, they suddenly realised, hell, we can configure this thing, we can change it, and guess what? Sort of 3 months after they first went live, they introduced a regular programme of business innovation releases every 2 weeks. And that's happened now for the last 5.5 years. So new stuff goes in live, boom. So that has really enabled them to do some really innovative stuff. Like, for example, it's hot off the press, a few weeks ago, they did some very, very tightly focused global marketing campaigns with Amazon. Extremely successful. We had 3 days to sort that out, to get all the data, munge the data both from Amazon and from this company to sort of do that. And for me, Aerospike, it goes without saying, it's about the scalability, but it's also the fact that we can make changes really quickly. And one other thing that isn't on my slide deck is the fact that in 5.5 years, 24/7, operating for a company that is now 650 million customers globally, we've had 0 downtime. That's no planned downtime, no unplanned downtime. And as I said, this system changes every 2 weeks. New releases come in and go, and so there's nothing sort of static about this system. Now, I wouldn't like to try to do that on any other product other than Aerospike. So when I decided to build a product myself to solve this problem in the market, because so many clients keep coming to us with this problem, and up till now, we've been good boys. You know, somebody asks us to build something, we build it, and we support it, and we do it each time. And I kind of thought, you know, do we have to do this forever? Let's just do a product and get something that people can just buy and use. So, of course, Aerospike was the choice for that. So, DigiTwin, it's a ready-made configurable cache, bidirectional APIs there, powered by Aerospike. So the API layer here, we've built our own suite of APIs there. But what we're also doing at the moment, because we're launching next month, is we're also building out some specific APIs that are owned by different verticals. So, for example, for telcos, anyone telco in this room will be familiar with TM Forum. So that's the global group of all telcos in the world, basically. So they've come up with their own industry standard for open APIs. So we're certifying DigiTwin at the moment to those API standards. So that means that you can interoperate and plug and play any data sets using DigiTwin with the TM Forum APIs, which is massive for telcos who have got, obviously, a lot of investments in OSS and BSS applications where all their data is. And the new apps that they buy are TM Forum open standard, but the old ones aren't. So for the first time now, they'll be able to plug their old-style apps into their new ecosystem, basically. So what you can see here is exactly as we did 5 years ago for our first implementation of this, and we've done since for others. There are whole suites of heritage systems of records and data stores out there. About every application, every platform, every technology, every latency known to man exists in the back. And as long as it's got valuable data in it, that's fine, we'll plug it in. And quite a lot of probably about 40% of the apps that we do collect data from aren't owned by the customer who uses a DigiTwin. There's a lot more flexibility and fluidity nowadays in terms of the business ecosystems and partnerships between organizations. So as I mentioned earlier on, you know, about the Amazon marketing example, we're seeing that all the time, where sometimes there are long-term partnerships and sometimes it's just a short-term thing. So, for example, you know, with the electricity industry putting smart meters in, so Internet of Things, basically smart meters, things coming in. So sometimes they'll just want a point solution and they'll go to said telco and say, collect all this stuff, do the analysis, and that's one-off, gets built, gets run, successful, switched off, etc. So what we've aimed for in DigiTwin is speed, not just speed in terms of real-time communications, but also speed in terms of configuring up new things, getting them to market, running them so it's cheap enough to be able to put it in, run it, one off, switch off, that kind of thing as well. So we've benchmarked over the last, well, this isn't specifically a benchmark, this is just our normal TPS. So 50,000 business transactions per second, fully personalized omnichannel interactions. So a business transaction per second for us is normally ×5 if you're just looking at raw technical TPS. So for every business transaction that comes in, say Elaine Fletcher does something on my phone, there's usually 5 to 10 OSS and BSS apps sitting back there, systems of record that need to know about that. So for everyone coming in, we will broadcast that out. So we're not just sending the data out, we're doing all of the transformation and constructing the data sets that said applications at the back end expect to see. So as far as they're concerned, they know nothing has changed. They're in the world that they were in 5 years ago when they were built. Yeah. The other thing that's worth mentioning here in terms of omnichannel interactions, so the clients that we're working with, they don't want anything to be preset. So every single image, every single piece of text that will go out in that customer interaction is personalized in real time for Elaine Fletcher when I get it. So that was the bar that was set very high when we first built this solution, basically. So we're now doing that for 650 million customers in real time, every transaction. Yep. So here's just some of the use cases in terms of why different customers have adopted this type of solution in the past, and a few proof points. I won't bore you by reading through them all, because I'm sure you can read them quicker than I can. But I think the biggest one is improved customer experience, because that is the real problem that everybody's getting at the moment, is basically how do you unlock the data in these heritage apps to give the customers the experience that you want, and also to be able to partner very quickly with third parties so that you can make targeted offers to specific customers quickly and cheaply enough. So that's the sort of the big one. Some interesting ones, though. For example, second from the bottom, legacy offload savings. Nobody has ever come to us and said, I've got a business case for legacy offload savings. They come to us with, we want to improve customer experience. We want to be able to do dynamic things in real time. We've got some budget. Have we got enough budget? So the first thing we look at is legacy offload savings. So typically 10K a day savings when we're actually running a DigiTwin program. So once we start looking at that 10K a day savings pays for the improved customer experience. So there's all manner of savings. The other thing that's coming out quite big nowadays as well is climate change efficiency. So typically ×3 to ×10 reduction in service for the same workload. So the bigger the workload and the more complex the workload, the higher you get towards the ×10. So at the moment, this solution is tending to be delivered to the very large clients at the moment. But now that we've launched it as product, we have 4 T-shirt sizes, and people don't need to buy it up front. You can take the whole thing as a service, cloud-based. You can buy it and put it on-prem if you want to, but either way, you just consume it as you want to. And the integration services come with it as well. And some of our clients wants us to build it and operate it as a managed service, support it forever for them. Other clients will say, build it and operate it for the first year, but during that year, take my in-house team, train them up, mentor them, so that by the end of that first year, they're doing the support, the level 1, level 2 support, and they're able to tweak the thing and add new business use cases, etc., because we don't want a systems integrator round our neck forever. So we're very happy to actually take a target of getting people to be self-sufficient, after a year. So that works very well. And in fairness, most of our large clients are kind of hybrid, where some of the business units want to be totally managed. Others of them want to roll their own in less than a year. So, we operate for a lot of our clients a hybrid model of how we interact with them. Why we use Aerospike? I think we've been through that really, but all of the business cases on that previous slide bring the technical demands that Aerospike solves. Now, we're we're not exclusively Aerospike. You know, we're 600 people. We work with pretty much whichever technologies our clients ask us to work with for most of the time when we're a general systems integrator. So we do work with a lot of the things that Aerospike competes with. But I think, you know, it says it to me, you know, we chose Aerospike for a reason. You know, we've worked with it in probably their largest client implementations for many years. We know it very well and we trust it. It's, as they say, no downtime, and that's why we trust Aerospike. And that's the most important thing for us, because as our clients are regularly reminding us, you know, every minute of downtime that they would ever experience would lose their millions. And, you know, we're on the floor if that ever happens. It hasn't happened yet, but we want to make sure we're with a company where it isn't going to happen. So just a high-level schematic of the components that we've got. So in the middle, Aerospike. So we've got a raw layer. So the bins there are an accurate reflection, automatically synchronized with the systems of record. So whatever app wants to communicate with a system of record, they can do so in the way that they always did before DigiTwin went in. They don't even realize that DigiTwin's there, other than the fact that we waylay them for a number of weeks while we're doing regression testing. But after that, it's just there. But what that means is any other apps that want to do real-time work have access to all of their data 24/7 at scale. The other things that are interesting here, the user interfaces. So you'll see there for system monitoring. So we've got Grafana instrumentation there with all the usual visualization, etc. And you can look at all the TPS loads and the monitoring, etc. So it's a great way to do the monitoring of the whole environment and make sure everything is running as should be, and do all the automated alerting and things like that. So as you can imagine, system solutions at this kind of scale, you don't want a human eyeballing something, so there's a whole lot of automation in terms of what's sitting behind that. We've also got an EFK stack there. We originally put that in for log analysis, so that anyone, auditors or anybody within the consuming organisation that wanted to do any BI or AI on any of the transactions that are coming through in here, they can do. So that was what we originally built it for, was just basically log analysis, because several of the initial clients are in heavily regulated businesses, so the regulator wants one place where they can go to see everything that's moving between that company and their customers. So you'll see at the bottom of all of these frameworks is a logging and reporting layer. So originally, as I say, put in there for the regulators, but now it's a use case in its own right, because most of these massive organisations have a number of different sort of AI, ML teams who will spend 80% of their time trying to get hold of data from various places before they can start to do the job that they're really there for. So this makes it really easy. It's a one-stop shop for pulling all that data out and doing whatever they want to, and we can integrate with anything that they want to use, any tools of choice. So you'll see there a number of different frameworks. So there's a real-time write in there. You can guess what that does. Day minus one reconciliation framework. That's one that you may not be as familiar with. So a lot of the heritage apps that we're working with, they are transactional and they are a system of record. So what happens there legally, we have to be able to reconcile that today's data has a certain amount of tolerance and relationship with what this same customers were doing yesterday and, you know, back in time, etc. So if Elaine Fletcher for a bank, for example, normally has this amount in my account, and I normally have a pattern of, I don't know, checking that account probably once a year, if I'm honest, but you know what I mean. It's basically, that's what's going on in that day when one recon. It's just basically us making sure that before we do an overnight batch to a system that's actually closed its business day, we will make sure that the batch that's going to come in to that system isn't going to pollute that system. It is going to cleanly reconcile into that system before we load it in. Migration framework, we often get dumped with vast amounts of data, not just from the owning customer, but also when they do a new partnership with somebody, we'll get, petabytes of data dumped on the doorstep to be loaded in and threaded and matched with whatever's in those bins. So we have our own migration framework into there as well. Batch write, you can guess what that does. And as you can probably guess, the online REST services and online write frameworks in there. So what we're saying from the day that we launch next month is book a demo of DigiTwin, have a look at it. Whether you want to buy it or not, please do book a demo, because I'll be bored otherwise, but also I'm really keen for people's feedback. What are the kind of things that you want this kind of solution to be doing that it isn't doing? So far the solution has been built up over the knowledge of similar solutions that we've built for the last sort of 5 years for different customers. But I'm sure there's lots of other sort of use cases out there. So for example, just in the course of validating the TM Forum Open APIs last week, we came up with a totally new use case because the head of architecture at TM Forum, who owns all of their Open API stack, he's recently joined there, I think 6 months ago, out of BT. And he said, my God, he said, if BT had had something like this, he said, it would have been a completely different job that he'd have had, because he said, we buy TM Forum Open APIs for all of the new apps that we invest in, but 99% of our daily operational cycles are running in these heritage apps that we cannot integrate with TM Forum at all. He said, with this, we could just literally plug and play TM Forum. And I thought, there's a new use case. So I think, any conversations that you have with us will just help us to expand, the product as it's sort of going forward. So for us, we don't care really how big or small people are. We've got different T-shirt sizes, and we just plug and play. It's very easy for you to get hold of sample data over to us. If you can't obfuscate that data, we can do that. So we can obfuscate the data in your side, and then it can get sent across to us, and we'll just run a POC on AWS. And we guarantee to do that within 24 hours, so that will prove how quick and easy it is to put your data into the beast. That, I think, is pretty much it, other than this is us, this is where we are. Yep. Any questions? Or are we all asleep or hungry? Thank you very much.